everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Comic Shop Adventures, my weekly excursion where I leave the homestead here at Athletic Geek HQ in search of my bounty of comics, graphic novels, action figures, collectibles, and all things in between. First things first, time to talk about what stood out from last week's bounty. Detective Comics knocked it out of the park again. Really love that issue. Love what they're doing, Mr. Freeze. Just really enjoying the whole arc, and once again, the ending has me pumped up for the next issue. Peter Tomasi is kicking some major ass at this book. Underrated writer. Underrated because I think he's probably one of the best ones going right now, honestly. And yeah, this is probably, it might be my favorite book in all of comics right now is Detective Comics. So really, really liked it. Really like what they're doing with all this, and definitely have something big happens at the end of this issue, and I wonder how this is going to be explained and resolved. So we'll find out next time Detective Comics is part of the bounty. Hawkman, which never really gets picked a whole lot. You know, I mentioned before that it's kind of staved off getting dropped from the pull list, but I really enjoyed this. Again, just with everything with Shade and how everything was going with Carter, and then kind of another ending that has me asking a lot of questions and has me wanting to see what happens to Hawkman next. Yeah, very excited about Hawkman, and you know, for as much as I was kind of iffy on it before, I like this one, and I want to see what happens next. And I kind of enjoyed the Joker one shot that written by John Carpenter. It kind of tells the story of this kid who becomes a henchman for the Joker, and how he kind of gets in over his head and forgets who he is, and pick it up. Like it's very much like a horror movie. I mean, but it is John Carpenter. But you know, I thought it was really well done, and you know, I kind of thought it was a cool little take, and I've enjoyed both of the villain one shots here in the Year of the Villain that I've picked up. I haven't read them all. I haven't bought them all, obviously, but yeah, I really like this one, and yeah, those are what really stood out for me from last week's bounty. I will see you when I get back here to the homestead with this week's bounty. Hey everyone, I am back here at the homestead right here at Athletic Geek HQ. Got a moderately sized bounty, and let's just jump right on in it. The first book for this week's bounty is XMen #1. I hope that now that it's kind of established that where the X books are going, and it's not just two concurrent miniseries, that maybe now it can settle down, start telling the story in a little bit more of a simple way. And I'm not saying that I'm not above complexity in my comic books, quite the contrary. Just the House of X and books and all of that jazz, it was just kind of hard to follow. And I'm hoping now that they kind of established the teams and established what's going on and all these different things, that now they can just kind of focus in, tell the story, and just tell good stories about the X-Men, because that's what I want. That's what a lot of us want. So we will see if finally we can get good Finally, the X-Men can go back to being towards the top of my list where they rightfully belong, because they are my favorite Marvel property. X-Men #1. From there, we go to some more miniseries from the world of DC, though. We start with Flash Forward #2. The first issue was okay. Wasn't anything special, but it wasn't anything that made me tear out my head and go, what the hell is this shit? I'm basically reading this because I like Wally West, and I feel like he got a raw deal in the Heroes in Crisis, and I'm hoping that this retcons that shitty miniseries and brings Wally back to where Wally can be part of the main DC universe. Much as I love Barry, and Barry probably is my favorite Flash, especially now with the TV series and everything, Wally was still my first Flash, and I'm not knocking the the new Wally character, the African American Wally character that I do enjoy quite a bit. But this is the Wally that was the first Flash I ever read, so I really want to see what is, you know, when they did the DC Rebirth, I was excited to have Wally back and kind of have him sort of as another Flash. Not Kid Flash, but, you know, when they brought him back in DC Rebirth, we kind of got to have our cake and eat it too, but then they messed that up, in my opinion, with Heroes in Crisis. So now I'm hoping, me as a fan of Wally West, this interpretation of Wally West, I can kind of go back to having my cake and eating it too. Flash forward, number 2. From there we go to Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, number 4. I've been digging this. It's kind of, it can be hard to follow, but not quite on the level of the Powers of X and House of X books where I was talking about being a little hard to follow. There's a lot of different, if you're not sure what they're doing, you'll be confused. There's several different short stories all dealing with craziness that has happened in Jimmy Olsen's life, and they all kind of continue on in the next, in the subsequent following issues of the books. There's a continuation of this short story, the continuation of this short story, there's a continuation of another short story, and some people don't like that. I kind of like it because it kind of, other than that aspect of it, all of this book continues with what I feel Matt Fraction can do very well, and that's take a person and put them into a situation where they have to be heroic. It's not as good as what he was able to do with Hawkeye, who was, you know, forced to be a hero even in his off-the-clock hours when he was away from S.H.I.E.L.D. and not in kind of these, you know, espionage superhero type mode. Here's somebody who's never a superhero, but yet here he is in a position where he might need to be somewhat heroic. And I like it. I like it a lot. It's just kind of, if you're not sure of how Matt Fraction is telling this story and what he's trying to accomplish and what's going on with all the different stories in one book and how they're continued off from the next, if you're not prepared for something like that, this book maybe won't be for you, or you might have to read it a couple times to understand what's going on. But overall, I really like this book because it's Matt Fraction doing what I like Matt Fraction to do. So there you go. Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, number 4. And sticking with Superman, we have Superman Year 1 by Frank Miller, book 3. You know, I've liked this book a lot more than I thought I would. Frank Miller's a very controversial guy, in my opinion. For every one thing he's done that I like, he's done something else that I've despised. And I like how he's not really completely made Superman just wonky, if that makes sense. Part of the reason why, as much as I love Dark Knight Returns and know exactly how important and how much it meant for the Batman character and subsequently the comic book industry, I don't like Superman's portrayal in that book. I feel despite, you know, there is a contrast in ideology between Batman and Superman, absolutely, and I like that. But I feel like he doesn't write, he makes Superman seem way too naive. And Superman, while he does see the good in people before the bad in people, unlike Batman, Frank Miller in Dark Knight Returns writes Superman almost naive to the point of stupidity. And when I found out he was doing a book like this, I was afraid that Superman would be written naive to the point of stupidity. Thus far, he has not written Superman that way. And I think that's part of the reason why I've enjoyed the first 2 issues of this as much as I have. He's writing Superman as somebody who wants to help and who cares, which is Clark, which is what this character needs to be. You know, he's been in the military, he's wanted to help people in the military, you know, stuff like that I've enjoyed. Frank Miller, kind of like Brian Michael Bendis sometimes, can set you up to where you think it's going to be good, and then like he eventually just turns and goes into complete crazy Frank mode. That's not, and that's what I don't like about his writing. So, much like Brian Michael Bendis, who sometimes has built stuff up and then just like let it in with a whimper, Frank Miller builds stuff up and then just goes nuts. So I approach every Frank Miller book I ever read with a certain amount of trepidation because of that. This book is no exception. While the first two have been really, really good, and he's written Superman the way I enjoy seeing and reading Superman, he's still Frank Miller. And I don't know if he's going to suppress Crazy Frank or if Crazy Frank's going to come out for this book too. But either way, I've enjoyed it thus far. Superman Year 1, Book 3. And speaking of Batman, we have Batman number 81. The showdown with Catwoman and Batman and Bane looks like it's going to commence in this issue. And I've enjoyed the Batman books in this story arc so far. And, you know, not to keep beating that dead horse, but hopefully we'll get a good payoff. Hopefully, you know, Tom King won't write a book where I'm not a big fan of how it ends, like he did with The Wedding. You know, I don't like ragging on the guy, but sometimes I feel the need to. So hopefully this, as we approach the epic conclusion, it seems like they're building towards, maybe not necessarily with this issue, but, you know, where looks like we're kind of in the home stretch with all of that. Hopefully it ends on that high note that makes me go, damn, this is what I know that this, you know, this is why I know that why I know I don't hate this writer, why I know he does good stuff, and not just like, oh damn, there he goes again. But we'll see what happens. Batman number 81. And from there we go to Nightwing number 65. The Court of Owls and story continues in the Year of the Villain and with Nightwing. And while Dick isn't as involved as I'd like for him to, it seems like they're kind of going back to that. And when they are, I'll probably be a lot more excited about this book than I am right now. Just gonna be real with y'all. Till that happens, it's gonna kind of just be the book that let's kind of get into. I can't really get into, I guess I should say. Nightwing number 65. And finally, to round things out for this week's bounty, we have Justice League number 34. I've been loving the Justice League and how they're going back in time and going to alternate universes and meeting other super teams. They've met Kamandi, they've met the Justice Society, and now it looks like they might be meeting the future Justice League with Terry McGinnis. So that's got me pumped up. You know, I'm a big fan of Scott Snyder's work. Loved his Batman. Loved what he's done on Justice League so far. And I'm really liking this current arc and how it's tying into the Year of the Villain. So hopefully the momentum keeps up. And looking forward to see how Scott Snyder writes Terry McGinnis. So pretty pumped up about that. Justice League number 34. And that is it for me this week. Let me know what you picked up at your local comic shop in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, give it a share, subscribe for more content, not just from the world of comic books, but from the world of pro wrestling, anime, gaming, and all things geek culture. For more content, go like the Facebook page at facebook.com/athleticgeek89. There, every Thursday, you'll find my collection comic of the week. That is a blog exclusive to my Facebook page. But that, I'm out. Y'all be cool. Later.